Things are heating up with Benjamin. Abe is having a mental breakdown. And guys, Midge finally makes her first televised appearance. Today on AfterBuzz TV, we're covering Season 2, Episode 9 of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. We have plenty of thoughts, so stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, you of course recognize this song from Season 2, Episode 9 of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is what we were covering today here on AfterBuzz TV. Unfortunately, I'm not Steph Sabra. I know all of you are immediately disappointed by this annoying dude voice replacing Steph's wonderful female voice, but I'll step in just for this episode. She will not be joining us for these last two, but she kicked ass in the last 8, so we were glad we had you when we did, Steph. And the good news is we actually have an amazing guest replacing Steph this week, Sean Whalen.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Sean, we're so excited to have you. Many of you guys probably recognize Sean because he is one of the most prolific actors I know personally, working all the time. And actually, Sean, you host a show here at AfterBuzz TV as well.
I do. It's called Acting Class Weekly with Sean Whalen. Kevin and I met, and he thought, we talked about acting a lot, and he said, hey, you should do a show to help young actors or old actors, anyone wanting to be an actor, just nuts and bolts advice, and that's what I do here.
Sean, anyone in this series that you've worked with before?
Yes. Well, this specific episode,
cool.
I work with one of the guys that's in the control booth. His name is Joey Slotnick, and he and I did Twister together back in 1995. So
I love it. Well,
yeah.
One of the most fun things about Sean is you can name, if you're playing the pick a random actor out of a hat game, I'd say most of them you've worked with already in some capacity, which is...
Well, yeah. Well, I definitely do the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, I'm always one.
Yeah.
I'm just one.
Definitely.
I haven't worked with him directly, but I literally work with his wife.
I'm sure it'll happen at some point, Sean.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not just me and Sean on the panel. It's terrible that for this female-driven show, the dudes are just talking across the table. So, Amy, please say hello.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. We're not.
Yeah.
We don't need to say anything. We just need to sit here and look pretty.
That's good.
Hey, guys.
In fact, what if you guys just didn't talk this episode?
I think that's probably the
Even
best way to
better.
go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That other voice you guys did hear.
You guys can speak all to the feminist qualities and about womanhood and everything, right?
We're happy to.
Right.
Cool.
Please explain it.
Straight white males rarely have a platform to.
Right.
So finally, this is our chance. We're happy to represent.
true.
Bree, glad to have you.
Hey, everybody.
Okay, so as I mentioned, guys, we're covering Season 2, Episode 9. If this is your first time tuning in, we're an after show, so we will be discussing this episode. We also covered every other episode in this show, so feel free to look back in our past and see some of our other coverage. But I'm so excited to talk about this episode because, guys, I loved it, and I'm excited to hear everyone else's overall thoughts. Amy, let's start with you.
Oh, man. I feel like the past few episodes leading up to this, we were waiting for a lot more to happen, and then we got so much in these last two. The relationships, everything that was building all season, I feel like we got a lot of really big payoffs in this episode.
Agree.
Yeah, I mean, the ending of this episode is, I think, one of my favorites of the season.
Yes.
Seeing Midge on television, just kind of doing her thing, going with the flow, especially after watching Sophie Bomb.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was one of my favorite things also. I think it was a really strong episode.
I feel like I was going to say this is the alley to the finale's oop, the alley-oop, but it's more than the alley because an alley-oop is, you pass it to somebody and they're about to do it, but it's more than that. It's like gotten in their hands. The dunk is about to come, and it's going just above the rim. That's a weird basketball analogy.
I got it.
But do you understand what I'm saying?
Dunk.
It's more, It's more than just
They're
passing
just
the ball
about
there.
to-
Yeah, they're
Yes.
just about to slam it, and they really give you a nice meat to really savor
MJ's
for the
tongue is
finale.
out.
Yeah.
He's floating
Yes,
toward
exactly.
the rim. I love it. I totally agree, guys. I love this episode. So much so that I called Bree and was like, Bree, I really want to moderate episode 9. I think this was maybe my favorite of the season, especially because I've been saying it all season, but my favorite part of the show is watching Midge crush on stage. There's a lot in this show. There's family stuff, there's romance, there's Jewish tradition, but watching Midge on stage and watching Rachel Brosnahan monologue is my favorite thing about this show.
Right.
And we got 7 minutes of it at the end of this episode, and it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
We're going to be covering the episode in depth, guys, but that's not all that we're doing today. We also have a special segment, which I'm really excited about. We will be featuring a prominent female stand-up, and it's a stand-up I like a lot, kind of a polarizing stand-up, so I'll be excited to get to that point in the show. We also have some news and gossip.
Yes, we do.
And that's it. in terms of what else we're doing
Yeah,
on the
we
show.
can't really predict
because we
we've
can't really
already
make
seen the
predictions.
next episode.
But just to tease you guys, we're also going to be here for episode 10 very soon. So make sure you stay tuned for that as well. Let's get into our coverage. The way I want to break this down today, guys, is by first talking about Midge's family, second talking about Midge and Benjamin, third talking about the telethon, of course, and finally there's some Joel stuff I want to cover too. Let's start with Midge's family. It was kind of a bummer to see them be so excited for the telethon until they found out Midge was involved.
Right.
But this is so Weissman. Like, this is just so their family.
Right.
How did we react to this?
I think.
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
No, I was
please,
saying-
Brie.
I was just gonna say I probably would have reacted the same with her. I'd be like, fine, I'm just gonna go eat in a different room.
Right.
Like, why not?
Yeah.
Right. The passive aggressive guilt, and the dismay that they think. Well, you remember Abe saw her being very, very blue, her material, so he's a little terrified. I'm sure he shared that with his wife, and they thought, oh, she's just going to rake us over the coals with personal things that are just inappropriate. And they don't want more people to see that. That's their fear, I would think.
Yeah.
What a switcheroo they did.
Yeah.
And you could just see it coming as soon as she said that she was going to be on the show.
Yeah.
But I think the pacing in the whole front half of the episode, I mean, they're always so good and so quick. But I loved, even in their family scenes, it wasn't just Midge and Susie's banter back and forth.
Right.
It was in this scene where she's doing that. And even the banter with her son, getting her son involved in that quick, really back and forth. I absolutely love this scene.
Those kind of scenes are what makes it feel like an Amy Sherman Palladino, because it
Right.
reminds me so much of Gilmore Girls and the way that Lorelai is and with her daughter and the back and forths. Like, they do that so well, and they write that so well for them to do.
Well, it was funny with me when I started to get into the show, and I didn't really know who wrote it. I wasn't really aware that it was the woman behind Gilmore Girls, because it didn't work for me on Gilmore Girls.
Right.
But this is a stylized piece. And coming from an acting background, the comedies and the kind of flavors of that time period totally work for this.
Yeah.
So I think this is the best expression of her kind of style of writing that I've ever seen, and it works so well.
I
for
totally
this
agree.
genre.
I'm glad you brought that up, because like, she's been a workhorse in this industry. She's
course.
created a lot of shows, but I do agree this is sort of the conflation of everything that makes her work great,
Right.
which is why she's winning all of the awards.
Right.
Most creators and artists have their master. They have their like bow down to this project.
Yes.
I feel like this is probably going to be hers.
Yeah.
And, yeah. I mean, it's.
But it's all very Neil Simon, New York,
Yeah.
the whole thing, and it works perfectly.
And actually, off of that, I forgot to mention it, so I'm going to quickly jump off of this topic and just talk about this cold open. This was so... I'm just hopping from booth to booth in the cafe, booking
Right.
the telethon. Not only did I love this scene, but it was such a beautiful homage to the art of that time and
Right.
the comedy of that time.
Right.
So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah. No, but just they love to mess with not really mess, but pay homage to all those great movies and styles of those old style movies, and the pacing and the fun and the cuts of the booths and the way they just shoot everything off. It's fun, New York. Like I said, Neil Simon.
Absolutely.
love.
Let's hop back to Midge's family. Abe is actively having a mental breakdown in front of us. He rips into his class at Columbia. He's dismissed and offered tenure. Are we worried about Abe?
I think Abe needed this mental breakdown,
Yeah.
to be honest. I think he's been so uptight and so confined for so long, and now, like, this is the first time we've heard that he had kind of an activist life before
Yes.
his family, and I can't even picture that Abe. He's been so anal
Buttoned up.
retentive because that I'm like, what? And I'm so excited now to maybe delve into that Abe and see who he can be outside of this kind of like, I need control over everything.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well, quite rigid, and he's so rigid. And they say that, you're liberal when you're young and you get more conservative when you're older. And I think probably it played more in that time period, greater than maybe it is now. And to see him finally not get what he controls. He kind of had his set pieces for his family, his wife, everything. And this season, the whole season, has been testing that.
Right.
For him personally, his wife, now Midge, and at work, and his teaching. It's all challenging that.
It
Yeah.
also spoke a lot to Rose because like her immediate, like, I'm going to handle it. I'm going to do this. We're going to fix it. It just shows how much she's kind of been that woman with him this entire time they've been together.
It cracks me up because the Weissmans are so opposed to Midge following her dreams, but they're so hypocritical because the first 2 episodes of this are Rose moving to Paris.
Right.
The last 2 episodes of this are Abe wanting to quit all of his jobs and sacrifice their apartment. But they're so tunnel vision, they do not have the ability to see past that. And the fact that Midge has been doing this for years and they can't support her. I do think narcissism is definitely a genetic component to this family.
Oh, totally. That's because I hadn't even really thought about that, but that's such a good point.
Yeah.
And the fact that this whole season, I feel like every time Abe speaks, he is literally about to explode.
Right.
So it was so good to get to see him actually just let it all out. And my God, the fact that he used an equation in like his final like burn, I was like,
so great.
And Tony Shalhoub does such a great job in it.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, though, the way that he commits to this rigid point of view, and like I said, the only way out of it for him was to get on that chalkboard and explain it in the only way he knew how. Was so fun to watch.
Yeah, it's like the Maisels, or the Weissmans rather, are such a funny family because they're all about control of other people, but they're willing to suspend control in their own lives. It's this funny thing where it's like a two-sided coin where they're willing to sacrifice, I'm trying to phrase this right, and I'm not quite nailing it, but they will pursue their own dreams at any cost and sort of see their own agendas as most important, but simultaneously want to control everyone else's agendas in their own lives. Even Midge is that way.
But you were saying that Midge doesn't really affect them. I would argue that at the end of this thing, and when she's on TV, seeing the risks that she took and it literally paying off, I think that's what helps us see Abe awaken. We already know the wife went through her thing, and then obviously seeing her ex-husband, same way, the way he looks at that check and looks at the TV. But the one thing I had issue with is I found it weird that Abe's wife was, what's her name? Rose, right, of course. Rose was so free to take off to Paris and do what she wants, but then she's really terrified of now that she's back in New York for that to fall apart. And I find that that was the one thing when I was rewatching this episode to think, like, why is she so concerned when she was willing to blow everything up at the beginning of the season? Did you guys have any thoughts to that?
Yeah, that's true. Because, I mean, really, to both of your points, everything is coming from a place of fear.
Right.
Whether it was Abe and Rose last season, a place of fear of Midge being a single woman, and then a place of fear of Midge doing stand-up, and then a place of fear of, like leaving his job. So everything they're doing is just kind of coming out of them being scared, I think.
But I would also argue, like, a little bit what you were saying, too, of how Midge has affected them, because I think that Rose would never have made that move to Europe if it wasn't for Midge and Joel separating and her kind of seeing Midge doing this stuff on her own, having a job. But also, she wasn't completely in fear of blowing everything up in Paris because Abe still would be having a paycheck coming in and I'm assuming she probably figured she'd get some of that paycheck.
But she wanted him to move to Paris, though.
That is true.
She was saying, let's ditch New York and stay here forever, and it wasn't very clear what she thought he was going to do to support them in Paris.
My thought is that this is the pathology of this family, of like, this agenda is okay when it's mine, but like, if you do that, no, I need to control that. And I think we see this even with Midge when Joel wants to get back together. She's like, no, it has to be me that gets us back together. And I think all of them have desires that only function within their own tiny little bubble.
Right.
I just think that's true of all of this whole family.
Right.
Which plays for comedy.
Or almost,
classic dysfunction.
Everybody in this entire series.
Yeah.
See it in Susie a bit too.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's probably a common Amy Sherman Palladino archetype, right? Like, I think Rory and Lorelai.
Yeah, Gilmore Girls was very much like that. With all the characters.
It's okay if I do it, but not if you do it. I think we see that a lot in her writing.
Right.
That's true.
Okay, let's move on to Midge and Benjamin. Are you Team Benjamin or Team Joel, Sean?
I'm definitely Team Benjamin.
Okay.
I think. I feel like Joel is. I let me put it this way, with the caveat of I could easily be Team Joel in the future.
Yes.
I see some growth. I see him splitting off, having to go his way. seeing that pride of him saying, I cannot be your husband while you're pursuing something I loved, and slowly seeing that veneer drop for him. That's why I'm saying it could go there.
Right.
But, Team Benjamin for sure, because he just adores everything she does. And that's fully supportive, no judgment. But we've been shown that he's off center. He's weird, so he can accept this new crazy world where she could pursue this career.
Definitely. Have you been watching our after show? Because that's exactly, we always say we could go either way. The writers could take us in either direction and we'd be happy, which is the sign of good writing.
I don't think I've said that.
You haven't? Because you've
No.
always been Team Benjamin.
No.
You're Team
You've
Joel.
on Team Joel?
I'm in Team Joel in the future. I'm not Team Joel right now.
Yeah.
But I'm not Team Benjamin either.
Ever.
I
Okay.
don't. I always looked at Benjamin like a rebound.
Yeah.
I don't see him ever as
Long game.
like he just. I don't know. There's just something about him that just irks me, and I can't like pinpoint it.
Yeah.
But
I think he's too agreeable.
Yeah, he doesn't excite or challenge her.
Yeah, so again, like great rebound. He's supportive. He wants
Right.
to go
She's
to
what
her
she
shows.
needed,
Yeah, like
but she's not-
the exact opposite of
Yeah.
Joel. But yeah, a rebound, and that's all it is.
Yeah, and I think I was responding to the slice of time that we're in
Right.
for
Yeah.
him. At this time, this is what she needs.
Kenda H in our chat is asking why was Susie so awkward with Ben?
Oh, I wanted to bring that up. So
Yeah.
So Bree, you're Team Joel long game, but they had these adorable kisses in the comedy club.
Right.
Even after that, you're still Team Joel.
He's a rebound. He's here for a purpose, and he's gone.
Right.
And those were some
love-
very forced kisses. I mean,
Very
Susie's
forced.
Yeah.
basically.
I mean, this is the control I'm talking about with Susie, and we saw it last episode too. She gets very defensive over Midge with any man. We've seen it with Joel
Right.
from the beginning and get-go, and now with Benjamin.
Well,
So funny.
she feels that could derail
Yes.
the path, obviously, right?
And I think there's sort of that thing where if you're really in a close working relationship with someone, they can kind of become your spouse.
Right.
And I think Susie might feel threatened,
Right.
even like in that like not romantic, but like almost.
No one wants a Yoko Ono, right?
Right. No one wants to
No one wants the Yoko
very
Ono
good
to come
point.
in.
It's a great way to put it.
Well, and really, I think what speaks to that is even just the fact that when Midge gets good news, when she thinks of anything, she goes to Susie. You
Yeah,
know, like
right.
that's like her
Yes.
girl. So the fact that she has that relationship with Susie, Susie knows it. And so she doesn't want Benjamin to get that first
Right.
call or Joel to get that first
It also
call.
could be scary after the last episode we had was this tour that didn't work out very
Right.
well, and so she might be like, I really need Midge to be 100% in, and after what happened, she might be kind of teetering, and I don't
Little
want anyone
nervous.
distracting
Yeah.
her even more and kind
True.
of pulling her away from this lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right.
All that being said, this was hilarious work by Alex Bornstein.
Yes.
Yeah, oh my God.
So funny in this.
Yeah.
They're using her so well.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Benjamin, he comes to the park per Rose's tip and meets Ethan. Ethan outs the situation to Joel. Were you guys surprised Midge was so panicked about this interaction?
I didn't really follow it. I remember the first time I saw it, I wasn't really sure why she was so uptight.
Right.
But, once she explained it, I think I understood. And then we go, oh, that's right. It's Joel. You know what I mean?
I also think that I have enough friends that have had kids that aren't necessarily with their original spouse now, and they're very protective over kids. It's just a motherling instinct, which I guess
Yeah.
it seems weird to us because we don't see a huge mothering instinct for Midge a lot.
No.
Ever?
But I think it is just that, you don't want people coming in and out of your kid's life.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think specifically to her too, I mean, she compartmentalizes everything because she's had to with like comedy and her family and
point.
Joel and everything. So I think for her, it's been very easy and just straightforward of, no, kids are here, comedy is here, family's here, boyfriend's here. So I think for her specifically, it was difficult.
And it fits into her late night time slot as they show after her show. They're like, let's go home. And he's like, oh my God, again,
Yeah.
And so, from 10 to midnight, I'm having sex with my boyfriend.
She's scheduled.
That's it. And it's not, this is weird at the park. My question about this scene, do we feel Rose did this passive aggressively to try to move things forward?
I think
yeah.
Rose always
Yeah.
has a plan.
Yeah.
She's always scheming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that I love every time that we meet Ethan. Obviously, Esther doesn't have as much of a personality yet because she's still too young, but he's just
Yeah.
So weird.
He's weird.
Yes.
I know. I love it.
Yeah.
Like, rather than paint him as like precocious or cute, they just like fully leaned into like a weird ass kid.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, the non-tagging.
Yeah.
So great.
Just likes to be
weird.
Yeah.
I feel like in the room they just like needed one like Phoebe, just like
Yeah.
he's like the weird one,
Right.
which is so funny because he's a child. It's just such a cool choice.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to talk about the telethon because, of course, that was the biggest moment. But before we do, we have another big moment, and that's announcing how important this network is and how much we love you guys. So,
Yes.
Amy, you want to take it away?
I do, because that is a big moment. So I'm
Yes.
going to take it and not let any of you guys have it.
We won't talk.
That's how I am.
Great.
But yeah, before we jump into the next topics, we do, of course, want to thank you guys for helping us to become the ESPN of TV talk. But obviously, for us to continue to grow, make great content, do more shows for you all, we need your help. We need your support. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, join us in the live chat. Who did we have in here? Kendra?
Yeah, Kendra H. We also have Drania in the live chat. Sorry if I'm saying any of your names wrong.
We're going to butcher all of them.
On purpose.
But
Not really.
Totally on purpose. But yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you're sending us those comments, letting us know what you're thinking. If you're listening on iTunes, you're not getting to see all these beautiful faces, but if you can, go ahead and hit 5 stars for us, and make sure you comment in there too. I think Steph had a great comment last time that she likes the spicy comments. I can't remember if that was on the SNL show or not, but
I'm sure she likes them across the board, though.
yeah,
Yes.
make sure they're spicy if they're on iTunes. But really, I mean, I think all of us, agree that being a part of AfterBuzz TV and just getting to come in and do these shows and just talk about shows that we love is a pretty freaking epic thing to get to do. So, and that's thanks to you guys. We get to do this because of you. So thank you so much. Keep tuning in, keep commenting, and, give us that validation that we all crave.
Absolutely. We need it.
We need it.
Lovely. Okay, so the crux of this episode was the telethon. I loved everything about this. Just general impressions. How did we feel about being kind of behind the scenes at like a classic 1960s telethon?
Well, I thought it was great, and I loved the, importance of having her come down to do the 15-second rehearsal.
Yeah.
And it's just showing the world that it's completely different. It's a completely different animal. Yes, they need her, but they only really need her for 15 seconds.
You're used to this probably, Sean.
Well, I mean, it was funny because we would do, when I did soap operas, they would come in and you would have rehearsal between 9 and 10, and it wasn't rehearsal. It was literally the director just saying, okay, then in this line you're going to walk over here, you're going to stand there. On this line you're going to walk over here, sit down. This line you're going to go over here, and then you're going to stay in the back and turn around. Thank you. And that was rehearsal.
Right.
And it's because it's a machine. It's a machine that's moving. And
Yeah.
Well, especially that because they film so much.
yeah,
And then that kind of leads to the telethon too, because there's so many different acts, so they don't really have the time to
right.
let's really rehearse your whole set.
Right, right. They're just saying, well, you look fine on camera. The sound's going to be okay.
Right.
It'll be great. That's it.
Yeah, I think what I loved about this the most was like the production design. I think they got this so right. It was so cool to see monitors of what was happening while it was playing out. It was very Hairspray for me, like Corny
Yes.
Collins'
Yeah.
show.
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean that as a compliment because I think Hairspray is a really good adaptation.
Right.
Yeah.
And this show always has great production design, but like they just nailed the feeling of a 1960s live TV set in a way that I thought was really great. Oh, so
And I
okay.
love the flavor of the control room, obviously.
It's so funny.
It's
Let's
just
talk about that
such
bit.
a great bit.
Let's talk about that bit. So, of course, we have Susie just pissing off these control room operators.
Right.
And Brie and I work in live production, and it's the kind of thing where you don't have the capacity, bandwidth, space, or time to address anyone.
Right.
And Susie just keeps coming in and talking to them.
And it's terrible because sometimes people are so innocent in it and they aren't really realizing. I don't think this is the case in that because they were being very
Blunt.
very blunt.
Get her out of here!
But I mean,
on.
but in a lot of cases, because most people are usually more polite, I think we are.
Yeah.
And so sometimes people just walk up to you and they just don't have the wherewithal to be like, oh, this is a really busy time. I shouldn't interrupt.
Right.
Well, it's no one's getting in the foxhole except the soldiers. You know what I mean? Like, that's how they feel. Like, you have no understanding of what we do here.
Exactly.
You guys are down there. We'll take care of you, but do not cross, pollinate.
Well, I feel like this is just like quintessential Susie. Like,
Right.
she just has such good intentions, and
Yeah.
she's really just trying to go out there and get what she can from Midge.
Yeah.
But she doesn't, maybe quite have the polishing she
Right.
needs at sometimes, or,
Yes.
just
Yeah.
basic
But,
social
or
cues.
does she? Because by the end of the night, they
Yeah.
were all best friends.
They loved
true.
her.
But then again, it wasn't her. it was Midge on
Midge.
stage that turned them.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a mix because I feel like Susie eventually wins you over.
Yeah.
But this was a fun bit and a great button. This was nice.
Yeah,
my
it did a
fav-
great arc.
I think
Yeah.
my favorite part of it though was when she was just sitting on the couch silent, and they had no idea she was in there until
Right.
she spoke up. That was probably my favorite.
And they just
part
start
of the bit.
screaming. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about these acts. We got to see some dancers. We got to see Shy Baldwin. We got to see some baton twirlers, and we got to see Sophie.
Yeah.
Who was everyone's favorite act of those four?
Shy
Oh, the-
Baldwin for me.
Yeah.
The
I'm a
dancers
Broadway.
for me, but not for the right reasons.
Yes.
I'm a Broadway fan. He sang Younger Than Springtime. Also, my grandmother was a huge Frank Sinatra fan. That was one of his classic ones that
Right.
he did as well. So that song just has a lot of meaning to me. So I think that's
Who
why
is
that
Shy Baldwin? Is it our Nat King Cole? That's kind of what I took away. Was
Crooner.
he-
Maybe Dean.
Really? You think he was
Maybe.
Dean?
Unless
I felt
it's
he was
too
Nat
late.
King Cole
Yeah.
or
Let me see
I don't know. There's no
Sorry,
real
I'm thinking
answer
of
because I
Sammy
looked at
Davis
it.
Jr., right?
Yeah,
Who was
Sam-
in the
Oh,
Rat
yeah.
Pack? Who was...
Oh,
Dean Martin.
You talking about That
Frank
Was of Color?
Sinatra.
Yeah.
that was
Sammy Davis Jr.
Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking maybe Sammy Davis Jr.
Someone I think I went online after trying to find this out, and someone said, "Who sings the songs from Beetlejuice?" I
don't know.
The calypso kind of Jamaican songs. Okay.
Let us know in the
Well,
comments. You can catch us up
Yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly. Harry Belafonte. There you go, right there.
Yeah.
That's
It
what
literally
I.
popped up. Yeah, right.
Yes, Harry Belafonte.
Oh, he had a nice voice. I'm excited.
Yes, he did.
I don't want to tease too much, but there may be some more Shy Baldwin developments as we continue to go on.
Yes.
We mentioned the dancers quickly. For all of us on the panel, this was a little weird. Like
Yeah.
these dancers, I've never seen more commitment with less
Yeah.
facial expression.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
so They look like seriously marionettes, and the guy wasn't using, just literally
Yes.
just shaking the strings. The way they were so fluid and flopping around, but
Yeah.
like no expression.
That's
on
what
it.
I think was the
funny.
weird. The no expression was the part for me because I come from a dance background and like that's the first thing you're taught is your facial expressions to connect
Personality.
with the
Yeah.
crowd. And so to just watch
Like these vacant corpses.
Their bodies
Right.
were so crazy, and I know the guys with the hair, like they were flipping their heads so like
Yeah.
harshly that the hair was just going everywhere.
Even though it was hairspray
So
down
yes.
like a brick house, and still it was flying
Oh,
around.
it's
I like that that's
terrifying.
what they chose to be the opening for this telethon. They're like, this is what's gonna get people on board
Yeah.
to
is
help
the
people with
moneymaker.
arthritis.
Yeah.
All these people that are dancing.
Right.
it's so
This'll suck in the kids.
Yeah.
They're all
Kids
gonna
love it.
have arthritis, I think,
Yeah.
after
Yes.
that dance.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, narratively, the most important act in this show was Sophie, played by Jane Lynch, who I love in this role. I think
Oh,
she gives
she's
us
so
a
good.
ton of shades in
Yeah.
this character, which I really appreciate. She does her "put that on your plate" act. And two things. Of course, she's terrible, but two, she's conspiring behind the scenes because she still has it out for Midge.
Right.
Did you guys see that Sophie was gonna bring the tension?
I mean, as soon as they said she was there, like
Right.
Yeah. And especially when Nikki shows up. And you're just
Right.
like, oh.
Uh-oh.
she says hi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
And poor Nikki, he just has no wherewithal to be like, oh, I'm supposed to say this in a threatening way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She says hi.
Yeah. Clueless.
It was that's such good writing and direction. Really, I think Daniel Palladino directed this.
What did you think, though, the fact that I mean, I can't get completely into it because it goes into a little bit later, but I'll address it next episode a little more. But the fact that she just kind of has this interview with these three people with arthritis and she just can't be like real with them.
I know. This was funny and cringy.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they don't do a lot of blatantly office type awkward comedy
You're
on
right.
this show. They
Yeah.
really don't do it very much. So to have this kind of weird, quiet silence was interesting and definitely telling to show, oh, she's out of touch.
Yeah.
You know?
I loved that they even had Midge like say like, yeah, that was uncomfortable. After
Yeah.
like I like that it was actually called to attention. And
Yeah.
my God, I would love to see the takes that Jane Lynch did
Oh
for
my
that.
God.
I just want to know if Sophie felt like that went well.
Yeah.
She's like nailed it.
Yeah.
Right? She might have.
But don't we all feel that she knows this is just the machine? That she's, as
Yeah.
soon as she puts on that outfit, it's really, I don't think she would care if it went well or not. to be really honest. She just says, oh, you need me for 10 minutes, I'll do my 10 minutes and I'll go.
Yeah.
I don't think she would evaluate herself.
What's interesting about Sophie, Sean, is much more than an actress, much more than a stand-up, she's an actress.
Right.
So I'm wondering if any part of you can kind of relate to her journey on this show.
Well, I mean, to me, you get into, you're always, and it is true, you always get, when I did a commercial in the 90s, a milk commercial, where you didn't see anything but a lot of facial expressions. So then, because of that, I got jury duty, which I played a prisoner with a Pauly Shore movie where
this is
it was
a show
lot
called,
of...
Oh, it's a movie.
A movie.
I thought you meant you were booked on jury duty.
No. It's a movie called Jury Duty. It's a Pauly Shore movie, and they wanted me for my funny faces. And when I did Twister, they said, because I ate a lot of peanut butter in the peanut butter commercial, they said, and the Got Milk commercial, they said, we want a scene of you stuffing your mouth with steak. Like you get stuck into these things, yeah. And so you have to kind of break out of it, and you always want to do everything, but you also don't realize how lucky you are to get what you get. So if I didn't make those funny facial expressions, I wouldn't have gotten my acting career, because Spielberg saw the commercial and loved it and put me in a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
It's the bird in the golden cage, right? She's not going to have all these finer things, but I think, of course, she would have loved to have them if they came from legitimacy, as opposed to, strapping on the thing. That's why she puts no effort. And they mentioned it a lot, and I noticed more on the second watching, is she puts no effort in putting in new material.
Right.
She doesn't change it up.
Like Shai Baldwin says.
Yeah, Shai says that she did this when I was singing in the subway.
And it was rusty then.
Yeah, and he said it was tired then. So she knows it's the day gig. It pays for the finer things, but now she's trapped in that house, and she can't be herself, and she can't do what she truly wants. So it's a good setup for the finale.
Yes. Without, we will tease it. There's some interesting Sophie stuff potentially coming up. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's great, too, because it speaks to so much of the season, and when Midge does stand-up, of them being like, oh, you don't look funny, you're pretty.
Right.
Yeah. So female comedians, a lot of times, that was not a thing. So I mean, it was probably very easy for her to fall into that character, because it was accepted. You can be a popular female comedian as long as you wear a fat suit and do something weird and crazy.
Right.
But God forbid you're beautiful too.
That's probably why she hates her so much. You know? Because she is pretty. She's everything that she never got to be.
Yeah.
Because if she could truly express herself, then I think she would probably be happier in her stand-up. But now she probably 20 years ago got trapped in the fat suit philosophy, and here comes Miss Maisel, and she gets to be herself.
Well, because of this, Sophie does everything she can to repress Midge during this telecast. Of course, she doesn't, because our Midge is marvelous.
Yes.
But before we get to that, because I want to save a little bit of time for that, Susie's not having it. Susie calls Sophie out in a really wonderful scene.
Yeah.
I loved this.
Yeah.
She just goes for it.
Yeah.
But it's almost not even Susie that I loved in the scene as much as I love Jane Lynch just being so stone-faced the entire time.
Yes.
Being able to take all these insults and just be like, well, we're both very dead at this point.
Yeah.
It was just to see, that's why I love Jane Lynch in this role too, is because to see the big transformation between her as Sophie and her in her real life.
Yeah.
Well, it was almost like she was the fly that she didn't even want to make the effort to swat away.
Yeah.
It was not worth it. She's so minimal in her eyes. But, as we see, she's pretty astonished that she doesn't back down, that she doesn't, start to capitulate or anything and negotiate or compromise. And I think there's a shot after Susie walks out that she's just stunned that she's ever been approached that way, because everyone's terrified of her and her power.
Yeah, and I think Susie's line was the standout for me in this scene when she said, I'm not going to apologize for what is going to make her a star.
Right.
Because it is that mentality that they both have in their partnership of, no, we are doing this differently.
Right.
And not apologizing for it
right.
along the way for hurting someone's feelings.
And I also love that by Sophie doing this and making Midge go on last, it also helped Midge probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. And so let's get to that. This was so great. We got 7 minutes of uninterrupted Rachel Brosnahan's stand-up. This was, first of all, great writing. I was laughing.
Yeah.
It seamlessly integrates all the other stories. I kind of got emotional watching this, seeing her kill it. How did you guys react to Midge's stand-up?
It was the part that excited me most when she went over to the phones.
Yes.
Because it was the kind of thing that, as she said, and I didn't really understand at the first viewing too, but when she says at the end, she's like, yeah, there was no pressure because no one was watching. Why not? You know? And from an actor, those are the ones that you usually kill on auditions. And I actually talked about it on my show today. The one I was like, ugh, whatever. And I went and did great because you're so relaxed and you don't care.
Yeah.
You can have fun. And that's all she did.
I also just loved watching the parallels of everyone watching her. Like all of a sudden people wanting to get into the audience and people turning on their TVs and Abe like watching and seeing other people, Joel seeing her. Like I loved watching that happen as well.
I don't know why, but when the three sailors moved from the fourth row to the first row, I don't know why, but the first time I saw it and the second time I saw it, there's just something great about that.
Magic.
They just wanted to be a little closer.
Yeah.
I mean, really, no impact really for what they're saying, but the fact that they did, that's exciting.
I think it was like also just they came to life. Like it was kind of like, oh, it's the end of night. I'm tired. I'm bored. I don't want to be here. Oh, wait. I'm really engaged now. I really want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
They just built so much energy, and it was such good energy. And I think a lot of times this season we've been talking too about how Midge's stand-up a lot of times is at her best when like everything's going wrong. And I liked that this kind of was like, yeah, everything was going wrong, but she didn't care this time.
Yeah.
So she still was able to do this kind of like loose set where she did her jokes, hit her marks, but then still was, went over to the phones and did her improvising every once in a while. But still everything was going wrong. She was just enjoying it. She let herself, not feel the pressure.
It was very different from the time when her father's in the audience and
Right.
everything's going wrong, but then it's like the tense energy instead of the loose energy.
The loose. Yeah.
Well, it makes me wonder what her set was supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know? I thought about that too. And going, I wonder what, she obviously threw it all out the window.
Right.
So I wonder what it was supposed to be.
She has so much unused material.
Yeah, it's true.
She's got a whole
She's
book.
always,
They write jokes all the time and she never ends up using the jokes
Yeah,
she writes.
never.
Yeah, you're right. Well, for me, the most magical moment was seeing the B. Altman girls watch her. They're like, Mrs. Maisel can do anything.
Oh, yeah.
It really filled my heart up. I thought this was like magic television. It was so good.
Yeah.
And the callback to the diner where the guy's like, I had a lot to do with this.
Yeah. The gaslight.
He doesn't work for you.
Everyone.
Everyone.
It was so cool. And Joel, of course, that's my wife. He's so watching him be proud.
I just felt a little bad for the woman.
I know.
You got a wife?
Yeah. I loved, but to me, the seminal part of that whole thing is when Abe hears the other TV in the other apartment.
Yeah.
And then the wife comes in, Rose comes in and says, is this really happening?
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing.
Although, what do you think the fact that Abe was watching but Rose wasn't?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think Abe maybe he'll be the first to convert because he now is opening up his options. So
Yeah.
I could see Rose being the most stubborn here. Midge has to get it from somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, she says, she's pushing Ben to see the kids.
Yeah.
Don't eat with the kids. Why? It will frighten them.
Right.
All this stuff. And once again, it challenges her. Remember her discussion with the girls at the school. It challenges her, it makes kind of a direct affront to what she was trying to do in Paris.
You're right.
Now she had to come back and conform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. Well, this was personally my favorite scene of season 2. So I'd be curious in the comments if you guys love this as much as us. Let me know. Yeah. Speaking of Joel, last thing we have to cover quickly, his dad gives him $60,000 to quit and start his own venture. We'll see more of how that plays out in the final episode, but this was interesting. It didn't feel very Moisha to me.
No. I think it's probably the best thing he's ever done. But it was kind of out of left field.
I mean, I think that Moish was pleasantly surprised that Joel was able to come in and kind of fix everything. Mm-hmm. But then I think it also maybe made him think of like how much over his entire life has he had to fix things, even down to me taking his money to pay for things.
Yeah.
That guilt came up.
And how extremely overqualified he is to be working at, Moish's place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I thought this was a great episode, and I'll be interested to see what you guys thought. Anything else in the episode before I move on to some special signals?
I just wanted to touch really quickly on Susie and Midge and how Midge reacted to Susie.
Oh, yeah.
Good call. That's
very
important.
End, yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Brie?
I was a little surprised at first, but it makes sense why Midge would be upset because of how hard she's had to try. Mm-hmm. And like she's finally seeing success and like the fear of that all going away. Like again, we talk about so much on the show, but so much is reaction to fear.
Yeah.
And I think that was what this was for Midge.
Definitely. It's the first time we've kind of seen her realize the cost of any mistakes, any career mistakes. And we see it more in the next episode as well.
And quite interesting, after the tour debacles, she didn't get derailed that much, but this time it really
Kind of the
triggered
last
her.
straw.
Yeah.
And I think, like we were saying too with Susie, like she's seeing the same thing. She knows how well intentioned she is, but she's also kind of like worried about certain aspects of it. I think that she's seeing more and more now too.
Right.
Self-insecurity a little more.
Yeah.
Great point. If there's anything else we missed, let us know in the comments and we'll reply to you there. But we want to move on to our special segment, guys. Today we are featuring Maria Bamford. We picked Maria Bamford for a couple of reasons. Like Sophie, actually, she's a very character-oriented stand-up. She plays sort of she occupies a very specific persona when she gets on stage, a very kind of anxiety-ridden, strange, traumatized Midwesterner, which I can relate to, for better or for worse. But like Sophie, she's kind of polarizing, so I'll be interested to see what you guys think. Let's watch Maria.
Oh, you guys, it's 2016, and I really need to find a way to show people how much I love them, despite all my words and actions. My beloved husband has noticed that I like to tear open packages of food, take caps off beverages, and leave it out and around. And he said very kindly, very sweetly, "Why?" And I said, "Because I'm a raccoon. I need to get in there, get what's good, be on my way." "Oh, but what if it goes bad? What if you get sick?" "Were you not listening when I just mentioned that I'm a raccoon? I can digest ceiling tile. I just need to fill this up. Get back to the river with my friends."
Did you just bring an old salad to bed?
It's nighttime. I'm awake. We recently married.
I think that gives us enough of a flavor. So it's interesting. She's a polarizing comic, but most stand-ups say she's one of the best, which is interesting. How do you feel about Maria Bamford, Amy?
I absolutely love her.
Yeah.
Her point of view is so unique, and
Yeah.
she brings such a weird flavor into everything that she does. And I think that she's good at utilizing all of her tools. She utilizes the voice and the character. She utilizes her different point of view. I saw her live one time. She did like 5 minutes about pug sounds.
Yeah.
Incredible. I think she's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with her work, but I think I have seen this clip before. What is this from?
Stephen Colbert.
It's Colbert.
Okay, yeah, I think I definitely have seen it. And I remember going, wait, what's going on? You know, because you just don't think that the way she presents herself and the way she has her hair and her clothes, that's where it's going to go. But it's really fun and weird to check out. But I don't feel like I've seen enough of her to let it wash over me as much. Right now, I'm kind of like, wait, I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But hey, that's a deep, visceral reaction, which is better than nothing.
Yeah,
than being dismissive and going, whatever.
Yeah.
I was having a hard time because I was looking up different clips and like I was like, oh, I'm not finding any of this funny, and I don't know if it's gonna hit right. And then we picked this clip, and I didn't actually watch it, but I think watching it with people actually made it funny for me.
Okay.
Right.
But that's also a trait of mine. I think sometimes I can watch a comedy and I can enjoy it, but I won't find it funny unless I'm with other people that are also finding it funny.
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, if you guys liked this little tease of Maria Bamford, quickly I want to promote, she created a show with Mitchell Hurwitz, who created Arrested Development, that aired on Netflix called Lady Dynamite. One of the weirdest comedies you've ever seen, but it's very sharp and very interesting. The New York Times rated it as their favorite comedy in 2015 when it came out, and I covered it here at AfterBuzz. It's not for everyone, but it's definitely got a point of view. So that's a Netflix show called Lady Dynamite that's worth checking out. Finally, we have some news and gossip.
AfterBuzz TV News.
Yeah, so Michael Zegan, who plays Joel on the show, it just got announced that he is going to be starring opposite Drew Barrymore in a new romantic comedy called The Stand-In.
Okay.
Ooh.
So a little bit about the movie. It's going to star, obviously, Drew Barrymore, who's going to be playing two parts. It says that it tells the story of a stand-in, a disaffected comedy actress and her ambitious stand-in trading places.
Interesting.
So that's kind of what the movie's going to be about. And then Joel, I always just call him Joel. Sorry.
You gotta call him Joel.
Michael. He's playing a guy named Steve, who's an aspiring novelist and internet dater. Steve is having an online-only relationship with Candy, who he has never met, and he finally meets her and finds himself in a love triangle torn between the former famous movie star and stand-in, Steve is also hiding his own secrets as a famous internet disgrace.
Ooh. Ladies, can Michael Zegan carry a rom-com? Is he charming enough?
We'll find out.
We'll see. Rousing endorsement.
As they said with the cheese knife, you hesitated.
I mean, we see very much so in this role, he's one very specific character.
Right.
I haven't seen him play anything else. So, there's certain actors that can be very all over the place, and there's ones that kind of do one thing.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see him in a different thing, and I think he's a great actor from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And so I think he can do it. I have to see it.
Well,
What
we
an
will.
interesting, another role switching, the switching people who look exactly alike.
Yes.
Yeah.
We just saw that what was that Netflix Christmas movie? With
Oh, the
girl-
Christmas Switch?
The Christmas.
Maybe? Something like that?
Yeah, with the
Vanessa
girl from
Hudgens, right?
Vanessa Hudgens.
Yeah, I got you.
It just sounds like a Hallmark movie.
It was.
Yeah,
I mean,
Literally, it was amazing.
Well, guys, that is our coverage of Season 2, Episode 9. We only have one more with such a wonderful panel. Sean, first of all, thanks so much for joining today.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun.
It was fun to have you and invaluable to get your perspective on acting as well. Guys, my name is Jeff. Thanks for tuning in. We will be here right now covering Episode 10 right after this. You can find me on Twitter at Jeffrey C. Graham. How about the rest of you guys?
Hey, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Amy Maestri.
You guys can find me at BRI_PHIPPS. That's Bri Phipps on Instagram and Twitter.
Instagram and Twitter at ThatGuySMW, and Facebook under Sean Whalen or Sean M. Whalen.
And guys, don't forget to check out Sean's show. That's Thursdays at 1 p.m. on our featured AfterBuzz channel. I'm a little biased because I help produce it, but it's a very, very good show, especially
As someone
for
that
actors.
does acting, it's very worth tuning into.
Yes, absolutely. Guys, we'll see you in 5 minutes for Episode 10. Cool. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.